I started reading again after about 2 or 3 years of not reading at all. Little did I know the first book I would read would completely change my social life. So obviously it sounds suspicious to say that a book somehow influenced your social skills for the better, especially to the extent that I'm claiming that it did. But, some authors just have a real vision behind their books. They go in there with a plan, they sell millions of copies, and today I'm going to be talking about one of those books that's extremely well known and one of the best-selling self-help books on the market, which is this one right here, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. So, as you can see on the front, 80 years in print, it's still going strong, which is amazing. And basically, I'm just going to tell you guys like some of the main lessons that I've learned. So if you see me looking this way, it's because I'm looking at my notes. This is a great practice for all of you guys to do, especially if you're just starting off reading again and your memory is not really built up to the point that it used to be. Just open up a little notepad. You can even write this down on your notebook or something, but just write like notes. I know this sounds like a homework assignment, but trust me guys, it really helps, especially weeks after the book was read. You can just look back and see what the lessons you learned were, because it's almost impossible to remember every single thing that you read unless you literally have photographic memory. And obviously memory can be trained over time, but it's still hard even with acutely good memory. So let's just jump in. I'm gonna read you guys the blurb of the book just to give you guys a little glimpse. So it says, achieve your maximum potential with How to Win Friends and Influence People. Go after the job you want and get it. Take the job you have and improve it. Take any situation and make it work for you. Originally published during the depths of the Great Depression and equally valuable during booming economies or hard times. Dale Carnegie's rock-solid, time-tested advice has carried countless people up the ladder of success in their business and personal lives. The most groundbreaking guidebook of all time. So, if that's not a blurb for you, I don't know what is. And I could almost just tell by the name of the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. It just has like a ring to it. It has a kick to it. You want to read that book just based on the title. And I was obviously just reading this from like some learning experience, but what I got through this book was something that I wasn't really expecting, and I'm going to share it with you guys today. So the first thing that I learned from this book, and the good thing about this book is that you can kind of just flip through it. I didn't personally do this. I read it from front to back. That's just the way I read. I read very thoroughly, but some people don't have the attention span for it. So what you can do if you don't have a high attention span and you're like building it up, is you can just read through like the subnotes of every chapter, like the titles of the chapters, and they basically explain the lessons for you. So I'm also going to explain them to you today and like give you applications. I'm not going to go through every single lesson because I have a lot here, but the first one is learn to understand those around you without criticizing, which basically speaks to empathy, which is a big thing that I think we need to talk about on this channel. I don't think we talk about it enough, but the way you say something really has a profound effect on the other person's reaction to it. If you go in critical and like pointing out their flaws, they're gonna want to defend themselves. Whereas if you compliment something that they did and follow it up by some constructive criticism, it might actually have a positive effect. Even though these two things fundamentally are the same, just the way you phrase it, structure it, and say it does actually have a huge effect. So there's your first lesson. The second one is appreciate those around you. Pretty simple one there. I'm not going to go into it too much because we've already talked about it a lot on this channel. The third one is focus on the other person's interests. So this is one of the most important ones. When you're talking to people, don't just constantly rattle on about yourself. Kind of appeal to what they're into. Obviously you won't know what they're into just off first impression. I mean, actually you could based on like the clothes that they're wearing. That's a great icebreaker. Like if they're wearing a t-shirt of like New York Knicks or something. I completely forgot the teams. I'm not good with sports, guys. But if it said like New York Knicks, you can ask them like, you know, is the Knicks your favorite team? And that's almost guaranteed to work, like literally. You guys should try this the next time you see someone that you feel the need to approach. Bring up something that they're wearing and relate to a possible interest that they might have, and they'll right away want to talk to you. So that's a great one. Another really simple one is just to smile more. I mean, like, it sounds ridiculous, but if you actually apply it and you start smiling at the world will literally smile back at you. Like, it's very rare that you greet someone with a big smile and they just, like, have no reaction. I've almost never seen that happen. If you smile at someone, it releases endorphins in their brain and they right away want to smile back. Call people by their name, don't just say yo. Actually address them by their first name, because people put a lot of emphasis on their name. They actually, like, it's to the point where people have done crazy things to get named after, like building bridges, which requires you going hundreds of feet down below into the water and risking your life with inadequate equipment and all that kind of stuff. So, like, people really put a lot on their name. And this kind of speaks to a bigger message of this entire book, which was that people have two main desires. One is to be sexually gratified, and the other is to feel important. This is literally John Dewey, which was one of the most famous philosophers, has, you know, corroborated this. Carl Jung has corroborated this. A lot of famous philosophers have said that these are the two most powerful wants of a human being. And I think the second one is much more profound. The first one is kind of instant gratification based, but also it is our human need to reproduce and pass on our genetic traits to those coming after us. But I think the need to feel important is the most prominent thing that we have as a humanity and as a group of people in general. And it's something that we can all relate to. If we didn't feel the need to feel important, we wouldn't even like try and achieve these big things. Why do you want to go viral on YouTube, get a big body, or like all these other things? It's for the need of feeling important ultimately. While there might be side goals along the way that fulfill other desires that we have, this one is a huge one. And it definitely speaks volumes to the human race and why we were able to achieve some of the things that we were able to achieve. Next up, become a better listener. This is also extremely important. I'm literally putting you guys on game right now. Like, all these things that you can apply to your life pretty easily, I want to say, are just so important. Like, becoming a better listener, who would have thought, right? You always think that what you have to say is super important, and you need to say it eloquently, and you need to be understood. But sometimes what a conversationalist craves is someone to actually listen to what they're saying and give them feedback based on it, rather than just waiting their turn to talk. This is something I noticed in like debate class and stuff. If you literally just stand there waiting for your turn to talk, you'll miss what the other person says just because our brains aren't as good at multitasking as we think. And then we'll just look kind of silly because we're just talking out of our notes instead of having a conversation with the other person. The next one is encourage people to talk about themselves. So like, make sure that you're not just talking about yourself the entire time. Kind of something we covered at the beginning of the video. Show respect for others' opinions. So if someone disagrees with you, don't just immediately write them off for it. Kind of talk it out with them and try to understand their perspective, because the more you can understand those around you, the more you will be liked by those around you. No one likes someone that's completely set in their ways and cannot listen to anything besides what they have in their own head. Here's a big one. Let people believe that the idea is theirs. So if you want someone to do something, like if you actually think that someone doing something will be beneficial for their own success, give them the idea through their own thoughts. So I'm not talking about like some Inception like trickery. If you guys have seen Inception, you know what I'm talking about. But I'm gonna give you guys an example. Like, let's say you want someone to take cold showers, right? Instead of just saying, hey man, take cold showers, they're good for you. You could say like, do you feel groggy in the morning? And then they'll be like, yeah, I usually am pretty tired the first few hours of the day. And then be like, do you drink coffee? And then they'll be like, yeah, I drink some coffee. And then you can be like, does your heart rate increase after drinking too much coffee? And they'll be like, yeah, totally, I can relate to that. And then be like, what if instead of drinking coffee, you take cold showers? This is not like an exactly perfect example, but I think it's a pretty good one for you guys to understand what I'm saying here and like really pinpoint it. Because if you lead someone down a path that gets them to the idea that you want them to believe, it'll be a lot more smooth for them to actually accept that idea than if you try and ram it down their throat. The same goes for criticism. If you're gonna tell someone that they're no good, they're almost certain to be like, oh, I'm no good, you're no good. You know, they'll get defensive. You want to be able to influence people for your own sake and for the sake of others. And instead of asking people what they can do for you, ask yourself what you can do for them. That wasn't even really in my notes. I just remember that from somewhere else. I don't even know exactly where. But I included that in my Instagram reel as well because I think that's such a powerful one. And yeah, guys, with that being said, this went on way longer than I even expected, but again, How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie is an amazing, amazing read. Before my camera dies, I'm going to end it here. Thank you for the support in the last video. It was actually way more than usual, so hopefully we can keep that kind of thing up. And yeah, guys, thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys soon.